Hi guys, this is our first movie review / unofficial podcast thing for Real Life Glitch Gaming. Today we are going to be reviewing the new Star Wars movie, the Rise of Skywalker. Here with me I have KT.
Key of the Tech.
We're going to be talking about this movie, reviewing it, giving you guys our thoughts and opinions on it. A little bit informal, but so what did you think of the movie?
It's been a while since we've seen it, by the way. Like, we saw it, last Saturday?
At the time of this recording, we seen it last week, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and it's been a week, so we'll see how this goes.
I've thought about it for a while, and I still don't hate it. I'm like really close to hating it, but like it has just enough redeeming segments, I guess, to make me not want to throw it under the bus. But I mean, it tried its absolute best to fix the bullshit from what's his name,
Rian Johnson.
Like, JJ tried. All his ideas kind of got thrown out the window in the last one, so he had to try to like work some kind of magic, but it didn't really pan out too well.
Yeah, so I didn't hate the movie. It definitely, I was disappointed, in short, but I don't think it was a bad movie. I liked The Force Awakens. That was probably my favorite one. The first one, like episode 7. I thought it did a pretty good job setting up the characters. A lot of people said it was just a rehash of A New Hope, but like it was. But to be on the safe side, it was trying to get old fans back and new ones. So yeah. I found that one acceptable, and I don't know. To me, that was my favorite one.
Yeah, I didn't hate that one. It definitely was a good movie. It just was literally
people's big thing is it wasn't original, but it was a good setup movie.
Yeah.
And then The Last Jedi came along, and it took all the setups that happened in the first movie and kind of threw them out the window. But after seeing the movie, I had conversations with a couple other people, and there were some things that Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi, some themes he touched upon that were actually really interesting for like the Star Wars universe. One of the things is like the idea that anyone could become a Jedi. Like at the end, you see the Force sensitive kid, and people, yeah. People were saying that people's big thing was that Rey was a nobody. That was people's big thing, and someone pointed out that the idea of her being a nobody would have like introduced the idea that anyone, you don't have to be born a hero or into royalty to become a hero. Just your average Rey can stand up to the big galaxy bad guy, and it's kind of like an empowering story, and I kind of like that. But the way Ryan executed it, I don't think really worked too well. It was a good idea that fell flat. And then when JJ wrote and directed The Rise of Skywalker, he took those themes and kind of threw them out the window and tried to, it was a bad idea having two directors and writers, in my opinion, for these movies. I feel like Disney tried to treat it like a TV show where they have different writers and directors for each episode of a TV show. They tried to do that with Star Wars, and I don't think that worked. My thing with The Rise of Skywalker was it didn't do much for me. It felt like there was no point to it.
Basically, that was like my whole thing going in. Like, it started out, clean cut or whatever, and then like it just seemed like unnecessary thing, then another unnecessary thing, and then kind of relevant thing, and then another unnecessary thing. Like, stop. If you're gonna do this side plot, do that side plot. If you're gonna do this main focus, then do that main focus. But like, it was like I guess with the main focus, it was like they were like so spread out between like all the side shit that it just it didn't flow very well. Like the pacing was all over the place.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing people were saying, is that the pacing was just... The Last Jedi, I thought, had the same problem. Here, I thought they fixed it a little bit, but like you said earlier, I felt like this movie was trying to fix too many of the problems or inconsistencies. I don't know if you'd call them problems. Inconsistencies.
More consistent.
Yeah, that the second episode 8 introduced, and it was kind of annoying because, like, it's supposed to be the finale, man. I felt like there was no tension in this movie.
Pretty much.
It felt like things were just happening, and like The Force Awakens, I felt like there was some suspense. Here, there was no suspense. There was questions you had, and they got answered immediately. It didn't feel special, I guess. It didn't feel like this big reveal kind of thing. Like when Rey found out, when Rey finds out her lineage, it doesn't like it. I don't know. It feels contrived. It doesn't feel.
It feels very forced.
Yeah,
it feels very forced because like initially it was obviously set up before that she would have been something more, more than just, a nobody. But when Ryan got a hold of it, he just was like, nah. And so trying to fix, or not, I don't know about fix, but trying to like hash it out to make it make sense, because it wouldn't have made sense to go with that line after the original setup.
Right.
So to try to, curve it back onto the right path, you could say.
And that's what the movie felt like. It felt like it was just trying to curve it back, trying to get all the bends out to make it straight again, which it was an attempt, I guess.
Most of it felt extremely forced. Like when they did the whole thing with Rose. Like, okay, Rose had her whole love thing in the last one, but it's like...
Now in this one, she's doing paperwork.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously
she had some significance in the movie before.
In the movie before.
People were bashing on that because she had so much significance. Like, I'm pretty sure, well, she might have had more screen time than Luke Skywalker, and they made Rose out to be this huge, like, not a huge deal, but she just had so much presence in the movie before it. In this movie, I don't like the way they treated Rose. Although I feel like she shouldn't have had so much presence in the movie before, because I felt like it should have been Luke and Rey's movie, more or less. I felt like they should have at least handled her character differently in here. At least have her participate in an X-Wing fight or something.
Yeah, what they did in the previous movie, like, for whatever reason, they wanted to force Finn and Rose to have this big thing, and like that was like the wrong way to go about it. The way they did it, 'cause it just felt like a Disney movie for the most part. And in this one, where she technically had a better lines and stuff to work with than she did in the last one, it still felt forced, because it was just like, well, anybody could have said that. She could have just. So anybody could have walked in and did her part. Right. So she was just kind of there because she had so much presence in the last movie. So it's like, well, I kind of have to throw her in now,
Yeah. Yep.
Didn't work out so well.
No. I kind of felt it insulting, because I feel like JJ wrote her in that way because she had a lot of backlash from the movie before it. And
she's not a bad actress.
No, not at all. I think she's great. It's just I think that's what people's main concern was that she had so much presence in the movie before. It was like the movie was almost about like her character. And
about her and Finn. Just like exclusively. When it should have been more about Rey and Finn doing their adventure, which is what the original movies pretty much are about. Just like that adventure. Like it's a space opera. It's about the adventure.
So one thing I did like about this movie that I wish they did a little bit more of was their big thing was, we're going to put all the heroes, Poe, Rey, Finn, Chewie, together on this adventure. And I love that idea. It's like, great, we get to see these characters finally together.
How it started. It's like, yeah, we're gonna be for real space opera now.
I felt like there could have been more of that a little bit. It just happened so quickly. Like, there was like a handful of scenes, and then once again everyone's off on their own doing their own thing, which I guess, I mean, that happened in the original Star Wars movie, where Luke was training with Yoda and Han was doing his thing with Lando and Princess Leia on Cloud City. So I guess that's fair, but I guess I'd like that.
Remember what happened with Chewie, right?
Yeah.
And Rey did her whole freaking
Force Unleashed
thing. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
That scene was weird.
It was.
Because here you have Kylo and Rey fighting over this transport that's taking off with Chewbacca. They're both trying to, pull it out of the sky or whatever for their own intentions, and then it explodes. Then Rey runs away with her friends, and Kylo's left standing there. They get on the ship and travel away.
Yeah, he does nothing.
Yeah,
he does nothing. Like, he's not gonna grab her. He's not gonna flip them off. He's not gonna do nothing.
You literally just seen Kylo Ren pulling this thing out of the sky, and it cuts to the next scene.
They just leave.
There was no explanation for that.
What? There was a lot of that too. There's a lot of like people standing around and doing nothing. Like,
yes.
And especially with Kylo, like, I get he wanted to show the connection between them, like towards the end with the whole lightsaber thing. Mm-hmm. But it's like Kylo clearly has more than enough power to obliterate those guys with no trouble, but he forced them to do the whole "we're connected" thing, and it's like,
yeah, that whole idea, which was introduced in the Last Jedi, I felt that was one of the things that broke suspense, because I think it was in the first movie Kylo Ren didn't interact with Rey or anything. You had to wait for that to happen at a specific scene for them to be, together. Here it was like, we can just communicate, and
it was contrived.
The forces of light and dark just communicate back and forth. There was no suspense of waiting to see what would happen if they got together, because clearly they have this thing with each other. And here it was like, we can just communicate back and forth like a phone call.
No.
Like I feel like that to me that took away from the battle when they were fighting on the Death Star debris.
Yeah.
That fight I thought was pretty awesome. The fight scenes were okay. I felt like the choreography was.
I can't stand the choreography.
Yeah.
With Kylo and Rey, they can't fight. It's clear as day.
It's pretty clear.
That they cannot fight.
I have a couple points here on a list that we're gonna kind of talk about before we were just talking about our general thoughts of the movie. And this is in no particular order. There might be some spoilers here, so warning for that. JJ said they weren't going to CGI Leia to any extent. She was CGI'd in this movie, in certain parts. Not when you see. So they took scenes from The Force Awakens and they deleted scenes that they didn't use, and they put it into this movie to help fit the narrative. That stuff wasn't CGI'd. There were some things when you see the younger Leia, when that part, and then there was one other part when she was training Rey in the flashback. That was CGI'd.
He probably didn't want to.
He probably didn't want to, because he probably figured that they needed a scene together to fit the fact that Leia was kind of like a mother to Rey, which I thought that was an interesting idea. I didn't even realize that was the connection they were trying to actually enforce, because we don't see Rey and Leia interact much until this movie. It's almost like it cuts to this movie and immediately they have this close bond. It didn't really resonate with me. I felt it was contrived. The word we've been using this entire time.
Yeah, I just assumed when I first seen him, I'm like, oh, well, she's either going to be her mother or she's just going to be the mother figure that Rey didn't have. Mm-hmm. And just okay, well, that makes sense for them to do that, but it doesn't go into why or how they really did. Just training somebody Yoda didn't really have that effect on Luke. But I guess I don't know, the motherly love thing, I guess, is what they were going for.
Yeah.
But
you didn't really see them interact. They talked.
Yeah, you
with
didn't really see
with
it, though.
Luke and Yoda. They and even with Luke and Rey, they interacted and they talked, and here it was and I get it, Carrie Fisher can't be in the movie.
Yeah.
So they had to work with what they had, but they didn't. It felt like they were just standing around talking. There was no really like any kind of I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what this movie's about. My biggest thing is that the original Star Wars movies, episode 4 to 6, it was like the story of redemption, you know, of Darth Vader. What was this movie? My thing was that maybe if Rey's a Palpatine, she'll somehow get through. We got to talk about that. we got to set that up first. So in this movie, Rey is a Palpatine. She's somehow related to Emperor Palpatine, which means he had to have kids. That's huge. Emperor Palpatine had kids.
Yeah, but then he talked as if he didn't. He talked as if they were like adopted or some shit.
Yeah.
And he just like put his blood into them. It's like,
what?
Huh? This doesn't make any sense though. Like you can't.
No.
It's like either he had kids or he didn't. God damn it! Like, like were they clones? What was that at the end? What was that? Why? Like the way Kylo was first looking down at her, I'm like, I swear to God,
they're gonna kiss.
If they kiss, I'm punch a baby. Like, and then he's not the one who initiates it. She is, and I'm like, she's not even giving him the eyes. He is. Like, what? Oh my God. Didn't understand that at all. Why did they kiss? Why did they kiss?
What was their connection?
There was no romantic connection at all.
No.
Let alone like, you know, anything other than the Force. It was just this random kind of thing that happened.
We gotta talk about Lando and the Resistance fighters that show up.
His shit was so weird. Lando comes out of freaking nowhere. First on the desert planet, and then when the Resistance shows up, it's like,
where were you guys in the movie before? There was no explanation on this. First off, in The Last Jedi, they call out for the Resistance to come help them. Nobody shows up. And then in this movie, they all show up. Why?
Yeah,
How?
what was the message? I want to know what the message was.
Yeah.
Because obviously the message is what's supposed to bring these people in there.
Yes.
So, like, you have to, like, divulge your own message. And the only thing that I got from it was, we found them. If y'all come, we can whoop their ass. We need help. we got some good people here, but we don't have enough.
Right.
We know how to stop them. Like, but like y'all didn't do nothing before.
Yeah. There was such.
How'd y'all just mobilize?
There was this. Yes. There was this big thing about almost like this loss of hope sense. That the Resistance, the fighters, because I think was it Lando who says something like that? He's like, if we don't need fighters, we just need people willing to fight. Something along those lines. And like you said, like you do see the characters that they introduce in this movie. I don't know their names, but Poe's friend. That he talks to, and the chick on the planet with the Death Star, they all show up to the fight. But that's still there were so many ships and stuff like that doesn't explain
so
where they
people, like, just people from around the galaxy. Where did you come from? How did you get here so fast?
Yeah.
Where did you get the money from? How did she get off the planet with all the motherfuckers? If
what
she
was your
the medallion to what's it called?
Yeah, what was your incentive of even showing up to this fight if you didn't come to help before when they needed you? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, maybe the message was, oh, we may have found a way to finally stop the First Order, but
what I felt like was gonna happen was like, okay, before like everybody started for real dying and stuff, I felt like it was gonna be like, you know, like the first wave would have came in like, yo, you know, we're here.
Yeah, that would have been.
You know, there's some people here, and they were like, they really found a way to do it. Then everybody shows up and come decimate them. But it's like, that's not what happened. It just all show up at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. That would have probably been the way to go. I just felt like that was a big theme that just got treated not as strongly as it should have. So at the end of the movie, Rey says that she's a Skywalker. What was that about? Was she just declaring like her a new identity for herself or something? Because at the end she finds I don't know how she gets it. She finds it, right? The yellow lightsaber. Because yellow's kind of like a neutral color, I think. It's not dark side, it's not light side. it's really used by anyone. And then she's like, I'm a Skywalker now. And I thought that was like almost going back to what Rian Johnson was doing, where it's like, almost like she's now choosing her way instead of going based on like Palpatine.
I guess you could say that like it was more to show like she wasn't technically on either side. Yeah, like she's not fully on the light, she's not fully on the dark side. Mm-hmm. She's always been like this kind
of like a middle ground.
Yeah, she's always been that, and so was Kylo, which is why I guess he was able to throw away his lightsaber in that moment for some stupid reason. Like he could have still used the damn lightsaber for something.
It was symbolic, I guess, but it was
practically
it was a dumb idea.
Yeah, it was dumb. Like why are you throwing it away now?
But I think at the end she's still undecided in a way of what's good and bad, maybe.
Again, that was to show like her whole mixed bag of thoughts and whatever else that was going on in the movie. So
yeah,
that's the only thing I really think of for her.
What Finn was going to say to Rey, you know how he was like, Rey, I have something to tell you.
Never answered or anything. Yeah.
So it hasn't been confirmed officially, but someone on Twitter tweeted out that they were at a Q&A with J.J. Abrams, the cast, and J.J. Apparently revealed that what Finn was going to reveal, that he was Force sensitive. What?
Huh?
But he the reason why they didn't say that is because they wanted to leave that ambiguous for some reason. He left it open-ended, is what they said in the article.
I mean,
isn't that kind of a big deal?
It is a big deal.
Isn't that kind of a, like, when you see a movie like that and it gets brought up twice, that he has something to tell Rey, like, even if it's like a little love thing, like, don't you think that should be answered?
That's what I thought at first, but then he said something that kind of changed my mind a little bit, where, who said it? When he was talking to Poe, and Poe was like, yo, well, we want to know what she's going through, and he was like, yeah, I do know what she's going through, and I'm like, huh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that specific wording wouldn't make any sense unless he did have something,
some kind of connection.
Yeah, if he didn't have some kind of connection with her like that, or just a connection to the Force in general, like, it wouldn't make any sense otherwise. That's the only reason I thought maybe he might have something like that, and that's what he wanted to say. But then there's also that what seemed like a love connection between those two, which is why it didn't make any sense for originally, like the Rose thing, but also with the kiss at the end that made absolutely no sense as well. so like that's why I've been on the fence between like what it could have been,
right.
simply because those two side plots, and then like what he said then and there, like none of that was explained either. So it's like, so what
they could have answered it in this movie. They could have. I don't remember what the very last scene with Finn. I think it was just him with the Resistance or whatever. They could have had like a scene with just him.
Yeah, like a quick moment, like at the end or something. He just was like
levitating a rock or something, like anything.
Yeah,
something, because I felt like Finn was a great character for this movie. I just felt like there was not much substance to him after the first movie.
Yeah.
Like they introduced
he didn't have much of a purpose.
No, he didn't. And then they started introducing all these other characters in the next two movies after The Force Awakens, and we moved away from characters like Finn and Poe. I found those two to be as interesting as Rey, of wanting to find out more about them. Mm-hmm. Or maybe we know Finn's background. We don't know much of Poe, but I felt like because we see John Boyega wield a lightsaber and he's kind of good at it, and people were saying, oh, how is he that good? Was it because he was a first order trooper or whatever? But no, you clearly see that there's a little bit more to this character.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like they should have did more with that, and they touched that at the end where they're saying, oh, he might be Force sensitive, but show that, man.
Yeah, they could have fleshed it out a little bit. Like they even could have had like a little tidbit at the end or something where he was like training with Rey, but he had a lightsaber in his hand, and he was just like he like showed off for a second, and it was like,
like, well, wait, what?
Yeah, and it just would have ended, and we're like, at least that explains something. But
Something,
like,
yeah.
It doesn't, like, they don't do anything with it.
And then it goes back to Ryan Johnson's thing of, which I absolutely love, that, you know, anyone can be force sensitive or be a hero, because Finn is kind of like a nobody. He was picked up as a kid to be a stormtrooper, and here he is, for some reason, he has no connection to Luke Skywalker, or everyone was like, maybe he's going to be Lando's kid or something, which that would have been pretty cool too. I would have liked that, but, you know, just this random guy who could wield lightsaber, use the force, do all these kind of things, and they could have played that along with Finn, because he's kind of a nobody in a sense. Did you like the way they handled Palpatine and Snoke in this movie?
I guess it made the last movie make more sense, I guess, in terms of like why he was defeated so easily,
yeah.
and why it just seemed like Snoke didn't care. Like, if you wanted them or Rey or whatever to kill you, so you can just put yourself into them the way you had been, or whatever the Sith had been doing for however many years, why couldn't you just take other people's powers to begin with and just raise your own affinity? Why are you spreading yourself out instead of just keeping it and being able to pretty much obliterate a planet with your force lightning? Like, I don't understand that. That whole thing it felt unnecessary, because like, I get you want to do the whole connection thing, but if he was taking their powers, shouldn't they just die?
Whose power are you saying?
Rey and Kylo. Remember, he took their force to make himself that strong before he did the whole force lightning thing. Like he took their powers, he threw Kylo off.
I don't think did he take their powers?
He took their souls.
I know he yeeted Kylo down the cliff.
No, so remember, you know, they did the thing, and he was like, well, now you can die together, and he hoists him, because suddenly he has all this power that he just couldn't do that in the first goddamn place, and just take, like, why have her kill you if you just wanted to be emperor regardless anyway.
Right.
So now he takes both of their powers, or whatever he took, their
whatever
souls
he did,
or something like that.
yeah.
It was like their soul, or their
I see what you're saying.
Like,
he was already that powerful to begin with. He didn't really need Rey to kill him.
Yeah, he just needed to take the power like he did. Like, all he had to do was do that.
Yeah, that is
and then
weird.
Beat them both off.
Yeah.
And call it a day. Like, all that other stuff was unnecessary. Either y'all kill him or you don't. All the rest of that didn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm like, what? Rey, why are you suddenly standing up to whoop him?
So, before we wrap up, is there any other thing you want to say about the Rise of Skywalker as a whole, or the series as a whole?
Not so much about the series. Well, not so much about the series, but the name, The Rise of Skywalker. Was that the name from before? You know, did they already have the names worked out, or was that just what JJ was already going to call it? Because it would make sense that they would be cousins in some way or something if she was originally a Skywalker, and all the Skywalkers are all branched off of, you know, Vader or Palpatine or whatever. And it would make sense because the Rise of Skywalker, I'm a Skywalker now, whatever. All Skywalkers end up on the same path. They're either good or they're not. And she ends up neutral. But why would it be called The Rise of Skywalker if she wasn't in some way related to the Skywalker?
So we had this conversation before. She is not related or cousins to the Skywalkers, at least from what I've read since then. So that whole thing at the end where she declares herself a Skywalker, like I said earlier, I don't know if like that was her way of saying that, giving herself a new identity because she doesn't want to be no one wants to be a Palpatine. maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we're both missing something about that. I don't know why they called it Rise of Skywalker if all the Skywalkers died.
Yeah, it's not a race thing or anything, but they were all black.
The people
who were like who used to be
who defected.
Yeah, who all defected. I mean, obviously
just throwing it out there, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's just a thing I noticed that they all happen to be, of darker skin tones. None of them were white, aside from commanders and stuff. But
they was woke.
Just saying. Just something I noticed.
Yeah. Final verdict of this film as a whole. So we're gonna rate this movie and then the Disney's new trilogy as a whole.
For the Rise of Skywalker, I didn't hate it. It cleaned up some of the mess. It was certainly an above average film, but it still didn't do enough for me. I would give Rise of Skywalker probably a 5. I was leaning towards a 4 before, but now that we've talked about it a little more, it made it that 5. I'm not gonna give it a 6. It is. I feel like the film in general is above average, but I'm still gonna give it a 5 for how I feel about it.
So I think a 5 would technically be considered average. It's right in the middle of 1 and 10. What would you rate the series as a whole? The new trilogy.
For the trilogy?
Yeah.
7 was alright. It wasn't bad. I think I'll give the whole thing. I want to say 7, but 6 is like stuck on my tongue. So I think my final verdict would be 5 for Rise of Skywalker, 6 overall.
So the Rise of Skywalker, I didn't hate the movie. I was disappointed in a lot of things. It didn't do much for me. At the end, I didn't walk out of the theater feeling empowered like the older Star Wars movies. It just at the end of Rise of Skywalker, I felt like there was no point to it. Like that movie kind of like took everything and the 3 movies all together, and it made a statement that didn't resonate with me.
Granted, it was the last movie and he had to fix a lot of stuff.
Yes. Being that I didn't hate it, I would rate the movie a 5.5 out of 10. I posted that already, so anyone who's watching this, they already know. But yeah, I thought it was like you said, slightly above average. Didn't quite hit a 6 yet. For the trilogy overall, I would probably give it a 4.5 or a 5. Like I said, the new trilogy, it didn't do much for me. 7 or episode 7, I would rate as a 7. It was a pretty good movie. It was a good movie. It wasn't great. It was a good movie. 8, I would if I had to rate that movie, it would be a 4. I didn't like it. It had good ideas. It didn't execute them well. Rise of Skywalker, like we talked about before, it tried to fix the problems that the other one introduced. As an overall rating, 5. It's average. Nothing special. Pretty movie. A lot of good ideas that kind of fell flat.
A lot of side stuff
that didn't need to be in there.
Very unnecessary.
Yeah. They tried to. I feel like they tried to chew more than their mouth could handle.
You wrote a check your ass couldn't cash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this informal review podcasty type thing. If you guys want to see more videos similar to this, let us know down in the comments below. But until then, we will see you guys in the next one. This is DJ signing off.
And this is Keel the Tech. See you guys in the next one.
Peace out.